we mentioned going to Yahoo, working with Woj in the vertical for a couple of years, but you've obviously been with SI for most of your career. How is working with this version of SI under Minute Media? Have things changed for you?
Things have changed dramatically, in a incredibly positive way. We began the year, with most of us wondering if we would have jobs.
Yeah.
When they announced that elimination, back in January, everyone was kind of scrambling and wondering how it was all going to shake out. To the credit of Minute Media and ABG, which is our real owner, like they're the ones that own us. They have figured out a solution here. And now, whereas early on in the Arena Group days, the emphasis was on churn, right? It was like, let's get 5 or 6 whatever stories out every single week. You still have to produce at this version of SI. You're still writing columns for the web. You're still podcasts. You're still doing a whole bunch of different stuff. But there's a lot more emphasis on quality as opposed to quantity. And I think if you're trying to keep a magazine alive and you're trying to write stories like the one I did on Woj and many others that some of my talented colleagues have done, in recent months, you can't just, sit down and write that thing in a couple hours, right? Yeah. Like it takes time to report it out. It takes time to write it. And, Minute Media and this ownership group have given, me and other writers a lot of room to breathe when it comes to stuff like this. So I can tell you the entire staff is, wildly optimistic about the future of this place because of what Minute Media has done coming in.
What were those first few weeks and months like when it was just the future of SI was so uncertain earlier this year, and there were those mass layoffs? Like, were you sitting back just waiting, or were you trying to see if there were other opportunities out there for you away from SI?
I had some, my agent talked to me about a couple of other different opportunities, but there was a long runway before SI was going to be, quote, eliminated, that the staff was going to be laid off. I think it was all the way into April. So we had like 3 months, and maybe I was being naive, pie in the sky. But at that time, I just kept thinking like, there's no way someone's going to let SI die, right? That just wasn't going to happen. And part of it was, blind optimism. But also part of it was we had an owner in ABG that, that licensed out our intellectual property. It would only hurt them if SI went away, if the staff was gutted and tossed aside. So I just had some optimism that something was going to happen. Someone was going to come along and figure this thing out. It worked out better than I and most probably ever would have dreamed, having an owner that came in and brought back, I think, 90% of the staff and made the commitment with resources like Minute Media has done. But I didn't panic all that much in the first couple of months, mostly because I just believed that something was going to change. This idea of just eliminating the magazine and cutting all the staff. I know it's happened at other places and it's terrible, but I just didn't believe that at this point in time, it could happen at SI.